Hi, this is Phil Richards from Radio Verulam. The following is a broadcast from Radio Verulam that can be heard on 92.6 FM in the St Albans area and at www.radioverulam.com. We now have a report from David Pearson.
On the afternoon of the second Saturday of St Albans Festival, the 28th of June, I made a visit to St Nicholas School in Harpenden. They were having a day of celebrations for their 150th anniversary. Pupils were being involved in activities related to the various stages in the history of the school, and as you can hear, the choir had reached the First War. I went on to speak to the school's press officer. I'm in St Nicholas Church of England School in Harpenden, and I'm talking to their press officer, whose name is?
Lucy Parr.
All I know is it's your 150th... Sorry, this the school's 150th birthday.
It is, yes. The school was opened in 1858 on this very parcel of land, so it's 150 years of education in this particular spot on Church Green. And 150 years ago, a parcel of land which contained 2 cottages was given by Sir John Laws, the benefactor to the church, in order to open a school. So it was very, very tiny to start with. It's still relatively small today.
And who was the school for? Waifs and strays, or what?
Well, it was actually specifically for the poorer end of society, in order that the farm labourers and factory children and children of the poorer ends of society could be educated. There was already another school in Harpenden for the wealthier children, but obviously this was a time when they were trying to extend education across everybody.
What sort of celebrations are taking place this weekend?
All their children are in costume today, so they were in church in Victorian costume. They're running around. This afternoon there's going to be a fancy dress parade. A lot of the adults are as well, and throughout the day, following on from the church service, we've had activities. So all the stallholders are in Victorian costume. They actually have today a whole selection of authentic Victorian games, so the children can have a go on those. We have a Victorian school marm in the school hall who's running.
She's very severe.
She's very severe. She's running classes every half hour, and the children are on their absolute best behaviour. She's quite terrifying.
Do they have to use real ink and nibbed pens?
I think they're just there having to recite things by heart, so that she has quite a severe rap of the cane if they forget things.
I would love to join her.
Yeah. And then we have madrigal singers, and like I say, there'll be a fancy dress parade later in the afternoon for a whole day of celebration and Victorian activities.
On my way to see the headmaster-elect, I encountered 2 old pupils. Do I spy old pupils?
Yeah.
So what's changed, would you say? We're looking into the computer room, which used to be?
That used to be Mrs. Walton's baby class, those of us rising 5s. Mrs. Walton was here for a year or 2 after her Miss Dodds came. And she always wore ankle boots, we called her Doddy boots.
And this was in what sort of a year?
1948.
And you're a bit younger than that, so when were you here?
I was here from 1984.
And what have you seen? What changes have you seen?
It's not changed as much as I had expected it to, but it certainly feels a lot smaller.
Partly because you're bigger.
Exactly.
Yes, it does. The hall we thought was massive.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's tiny.
I know.
It's absolutely weird. This is where we stood if we talked in class. We stood up against the wall.
That's the headmistress's office now. So
is it still? That was Mr. Cave. He was the headmaster.
So the caning still goes on in the same place.
I don't remember the caning.
With slight feelings of nervousness, I waited outside the headmaster's office. How many pupils are there here at the moment?
We currently have 153 children, ranging from 5 to 11 years old.
And what sort of numbers are there in a class?
In our youngest classes, so in our 2 youngest classes, there's 30 children. And in our 3 eldest classes, there's 32 and 33 children in each of those.
Do we still have a target of 30 per class?
For infant classes, there's a law that says that you can't actually have more than 30 children without having 2 qualified teachers.
Right.
But actually for what is now called Key Stage 2, which somebody out of education would call junior school, there's no law mandating that, so we could potentially have classes as big as we had 150 years ago and put all 100 children in the hall if we wanted to draw back some.
Another question that occurs to me, do you know much about the demography of the area? Are numbers of your age children increasing or decreasing or staying about the same?
Well, We're very fortunate because we're the only faith school in Harpenden that's Church of England, so that makes us even more popular because we do have such close links with St Nicholas Church. Our catchment is huge because it's a young, vibrant parish. Having said that as well, though, Harpenden as a whole actually has a falling demographic with child intake, but not in the town centre.
The old fogies like me are taking over.
I'm not sure it is. I think it's young professionals that are commuting into the city, actually, that haven't quite started their families yet. So no. The old fogies, I think, are selling up and moving out and making a huge killing.
Now, if I were a Muslim with a child wanting to have the child here, what's the situation?
Well, we have very strict criteria. We follow the current law of any looked after child, so any child that's in care automatically receives a place at our school. Then it's the siblings, so if your brother or sister comes to our school, and then obviously it's if you attend the parish church, because we are a church school. But then as you work your way further down the list, there's no reason why at all a Muslim child wouldn't be able to join our school, that we welcome all faiths.
What would happen during RE lessons?
RE is one of those strange subjects that parents have the choice to opt out of, and so when you do the RE lesson, they would be excused elsewhere, and also for
so that's fairly
collective
standard
worship.
across education.
That you have to respect the parents' wishes, and even though we're a Christian school, if a child meets our criteria and it comes to our school, to totally accommodate that would be no problem whatsoever.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're more than welcome.
Most interesting.
Thank you.
The school is clearly in good and caring hands.